Welcome to another edition of Talkline. I'm Zev Brenner. Usually I'm in the studio. Well, I am in a studio, not my studio, but it's a gorgeous studio. I'm in Montebello, New York, and it's the home of Serenity Health, where we're going to be looking at some very important health issues that affect all of us, not just in Rockland County, but throughout New York State and even beyond. So it's a pleasure to be here live in the studio and see some people who are making a difference in our community. And Israel Ramond is with Montebello Media, where he's the chief marketing officer. He named his ad agency after the place where we are right now, the location. Morty Becker is the director of communication for Serenity Health, and Esty Nadler is the clinical manager for Derech Shalom Center, and everybody's working in tandem to get the message out of how important, especially with polio on the horizon right now, and what we can do to educate people so they can make an intelligent decision with something which is so important for the health of all of us. So thank you all for... I'm thanking you, but you should. It's your studio. It's your studio, but it was great to be here. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having us, and thanks for being here.
It's nice being had. Anyway, so first, let's begin and let's just define for people who don't know what Serenity Health is. So, Morty, maybe just explain to us what it does. And you are an umbrella organization, so to speak. You have this beautiful mansion that you've acquired, where we're sitting in the mansion. Has lots of many dimensions. It's gigantic, so which means you're poised for growth.
Yes, absolutely. Zev, thank you so much for coming down to our location. It's great to have you here. I'm a big fan of the show. You know, I've listened to your show since I was a really young child. I think every Saturday night or Matzah Shabbos, we would listen from like 12 to 2 a.m. So I was definitely very tired in school.
You know, we have an early bird special throughout the week. We're 6 nights a week.
6 nights a week. Incredible. Okay, wow. Well, it's good to see you're growing, and like the Talkline network, you know, Serenity is also growing by leaps and bounds. Serenity Health is I would say, a back office operations management company for healthcare facilities. So what we do is we have a senior leadership team who go down to underperforming healthcare facilities, check out what's going on, what's going wrong, what's going right. And then based on what we find, we then find solutions. So we're very solutions oriented, whether it's billing, staffing, marketing, communications, personnel management. We do it all. And go ahead.
No, so you allow a health group that's part of your facility, so they do their thing, and you take care of the billing and some of the personnel, and they just handle the day-to-day doing what they have to do.
Right. So what we do is the technical aspect, and what they do is what they're good at. Say it's a clinician who just wants to offer, clinical services, and I think Esty can speak to that. We would do all the back-end management for them. So whether it's billing, dealing with insurance, grant writing, we cover all of that for them and allow them to really proceed with what they're great at.
Is that a unique concept?
I think it is. You know, I mean, we do have some competitors out there, but as you'll hear throughout the program, people really rely on Serenity. We're the gold standard in healthcare. And
well, there's around the serenity that I feel being here.
Okay, yeah. We call it being serenitized.
Let me turn to Esty. So you are the clinical manager for Derech Shalom Center. So tell us about Derech Shalom. What do you do, and what's your connection with Serenity?
Yes, thank you. So the Derech Shalom Center is a case management organization that helps people who are going through any sort of family struggles or even crisis. That could be something like a marriage problem. It could be a divorce. It could be a mental health issue. Really anything that's affecting the family and causing instability. We have case managers who are highly trained to help people through this process, whether it's guiding them or connecting them to the right resources. So Serenity has been our backbone the entire time. We're a non-for-profit organization, and we get to really solely focus on our work. I get to, as a clinical manager, just really work with my team on how are we treating cases, how are we connecting and networking with other organizations, so that way we really know everything, so we can let people know that we know about everything that exists, and we can help connect you to all these wonderful organizations that are out there in the world. And Serenity really lets us focus at that by doing, our billing and taking care of our grants and our insurance and our staffing and our HR. It's really, and our location where we rent space. So we really get to focus on our work.
Amazing. And I guess, Israel, you put it all together because you help publicize and make sure everybody knows about Serenity, about Derech Shalom, and really help the community navigate that. So tell us about your media experiences.
Sure. So Montebello Media it's a fairly young company. And I would say we're only right now getting into the spotlight through some of the work that we're doing with these great organizations. Montebello Media really focuses on, we work with thought leaders, experts, and we help them develop their short form and long form content, their messaging, their posters, their websites, things like that. And we try to take the objective standpoint and really just help our clients when they have their message. We just help them get it out into the limelight, into the public sphere. We've been very fortunate to work with some great organizations like Serenity and Derech Shalom, and then now through Serenity with the Rockland County Department of Health and other local organizations on their polio campaign.
Which leads me to the reason why I'm here is polio is, unfortunately, we thought it was eradicated, but it's back, and it's back in Rockland County and other areas too. They're seeing potential problems. So really the question, though, is how do we get people to be vaccinated? This is not just an issue for polio. It's with COVID too. But I think with polio, it has more of an important reason where people are worried and taking some efforts. So you mentioned Rockland County Department of Health. So I know everybody here is working with them to try to get this message out there. I saw some wonderful posters you put out, Israel.
Thank you.
Dealing with polio. It was in Yiddish, and I saw some other languages too. And it's not telling people to get vaccinated, but you're telling people what they should know about polio, because I would assume that a lot of people don't know what the consequence of having polio is.
That's correct. We spoke with obviously Serenity Health and the healthcare providers that they put us in touch with, that the Rockland County Department of Health put us in touch with. And, the message that they wanted us to share with the public is just the information and let people know what's really going on. Ultimately, polio has been eradicated before in the United States, and it can happen again. Thankfully, we haven't had to deal with this in the past 30, 40 years. So there's a lot of information that people just don't have, and we're happy to help them, learn it.
Oh, it's so important. Esty, I know in your clinical work, you have people come to you from families that are broken, problems. And let's face it, the things are, and I've been on the air for, I don't want to tell you, 40 years. I'm getting to feel old. But I think the problems that people face today are more challenging than even 20, 30, 40 years ago. And the family's under a lot more stress. We see a lot more divorce. And I would assume that not everybody that's not getting a vaccine is because they're anti-vaccine. There are probably other factors. You probably see that in your practice.
Yeah, we see a large percentage of people just not having the right resources to connect them. When a family's going through any sort of crisis, all stability is on the line, and everyone's just kind of focusing on the next step forward to get through the day. And sometimes really important things fall through the cracks. We see a lot of single parents that just can't afford time-wise to go to a doctor to take the child, and the child starts school and somehow falls through the cracks as well, and their immunizations aren't up to date. We see people just, trying to survive day to day and really skipping important things.
No, it's so important. So what you're doing is you're educating people about polio. But let me ask you this, Morty. If people call up and say, I'm interested, I'm learning about polio, I don't have a doctor, do you help them in that regard? Are you going to do the vaccine? What's the scenario?
Yeah, so let me back it up a bit. Rockland County reached out to Serenity Health. There are a multitude of healthcare organizations in Rockland County and beyond, but the Rockland County government felt that the outlet that can really help get all community leaders and stakeholders at the table is Serenity, and that's why they reached out to us. And we, in turn, hired Montebello Media to help us get out that message. So ultimately, we created a website, polioinfo.com. There was a hotline, which Israel can tell you a little bit more about, in 4 different languages. And, eventually, if there's a need beyond what the healthcare providers can offer for vaccines, we'd be happy to go out there and set up pop-up clinics and so on to get people vaccinated. And it's vitally important that people get immunized and stay up to date with their immunizations.
I'm not in my regular studio tonight, but I'm very happy to be in Rockland County and in this beautiful mansion. And I thank Morty Becker for Serenity Healthcare. He serves as Director of Communications for inviting us. And Israel Mond is CMO of Montebello Media. And Esty Nadler is Clinical Manager of Derech Shalom Center. Do we have any idea as to how many people in this county, in Rockland County, are not vaccinated for polio? Is there any statistics? Do we have any knowledge? Anybody?
So I think, in our...
Morty, you've been elected.
Thanks a lot. In our earlier conversations, I think the number is somewhere in the range of 10,000. But we've been really, tackling that. And I think we've gotten some 20% of that 10,000 to actually get vaccinated through
so
this.
2,000 people.
Right, 2,000 people throughout this awareness
That's
campaign.
amazing. Over what period of time do you get 2,000 people?
It's phenomenal. Israel, can you point out the start date of our
so June 21st was the day that the polio case was announced. We had posters out in about 2 weeks, actually a week and a half. The posters were starting to be distributed. So we're talking about throughout the month of August. That's pretty much.
That's pretty good. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. You're going to do COVID too?
Well, hopefully that dies down enough that we don't have to.
Well, I think now they have the new booster shots that they're looking to promote. So I think that's going to be the next campaign. And the truth is, there's an image out there, and it's an unfair image. We discussed this off air, is that there's a perception that in the religious community, in the Orthodox community, there's a strong anti-vaxxer movement. There is some anti-vaxxer out there, but it seems to get a lot more media attention than what really the numbers call for. Maybe, do we have any idea how large the anti-vaxxer movement is, and what impact does it have on Jews not getting vaccines?
Sure. So what's interesting about this is, there isn't necessarily data that suggests like a specific denomination, is low on their vaccines. We've actually seen that most of the community is immunized and takes this very seriously. But I think one of the important factors here is, and this is something that we were told to consider, both by the rabbinical leaders and community leaders, is that the Jewish community has always been the low-hanging fruit when it comes to, blame. And especially when it comes to diseases, like you think about measles in the past in Rockland County, and, really throughout history, this has happened. So it's very easy for them to, people to jump to a conclusion and target the Jewish community. Even immediately after, the news was released, there was a New York State senator, I believe his name was Skoufis, who had posted something
very anti-Semitic. He pulled it down, but it
was immediately removed.
He blamed the Jews for.
Sure, and that's really the thing. It's very easy to blame a denomination, very quickly. And I think when you look at the numbers, and you look at the data, and we've gotten a lot of different sources from medical experts in Serenity Health and the Department of Health, and the data doesn't seem to imply that there's a very strong or vaccine hesitant community here. It's just about, as I think Esty will talk about, people who are overwhelmed, who may not have gotten to it yet. And the big thing that the posters did is kind of tell these people, like, now is the time to take this and make it a priority.
No, kol hakavod, because it's something very important. 2,000 people to be vaccinated in a short period of time is a great, great statistic, and kudos to you and your team for getting the message out and people doing it. But the perception is, and it's only a small number of people that are anti-vaxxers, but it gets a lot of media attention. I guess it plays well in the media. And as you pointed out, Esty, before, some of the people not getting vaccines, nothing to do with being anti-vaxxer, just has to do with the fact that life has taken over many different directions. If they're divorced or destitute and have other problems, so maybe they don't go to the doctor that often, right?
Right, we're seeing a high rise, and especially in single parents, but again, it comes across in all family, of going to urgent cares, of not having a pediatrician. When you go to urgent care, they're testing you for strep and they're giving you antibiotics. Nobody's checking. When I go to the pediatrician, they're like, oh, by the way, your child child has shots coming up in the next few weeks. But when you, at 7 o'clock at night, after a long day of work and running the home and dealing with crises, you're just running to the urgent care to get the antibiotics. You're not thinking long picture. And one of the things our case managers do, something in all aspects, we always tell them, and this is hard when we're dealing with such a crisis, a public crisis, is that we tell them we don't give our opinions to our clients. We're just here to educate and give the facts. So, and we can help you. If this is what you decide to do, we can now help connect you with the resources. We can connect you with a doctor. We can connect you with a family clinic that can help support you. We connect you with tons of organizations out there that can support you and help make it a little bit easier. Some people don't even know about everything that exists.
More, you're going to put a clinic over here? You have enough space. You have this.
Absolutely.
You have this gigantic. People can see it. It's a gigantic mansion. You can put a hospital here.
Yeah, but we have clients lining up for space, so I don't know if we can handle everyone. But I would also mention, following up on Esty's point, that during COVID, there was a backlog of visiting doctors. There were barriers to people just
People didn't go to doctors.
Right,
in
they
COVID.
couldn't.
Nothing to do with religion. It was across the board.
Right.
And there were lockdowns. People couldn't, it wasn't so easy to go to a doctor. So the idea of our PR outreach is really to get people caught up and to make sure that they go out there and get immunized. It's so important. Polio is something that could cause paralysis, and it's something to be taken really seriously. And I think that the statistics show that there's a 99% accuracy rate or effective rate with the vaccine. So there's really nothing for people to worry about.
From what I'm gleaning, where the anti-vaxxers say that if you take a vaccine, it can lead to autism and other situations which they're afraid of. But when it comes to the polio shot, what you're saying is there's really almost no risk because it's 99% effective.
Correct. I would say that people should ask their primary care doctor, but I would say anecdotally you're correct, Zev.
Esty, I'm curious. And now you're dealing with polio, but when polio has not been on the horizon, what does Derech Shalom contend itself with? What kind of issues on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so we deal with really any sort of crisis. For every person, it's different what a crisis looks like, or even a problem. We like to do preventative work also. Like, you don't have to come to us when something's a crisis. So we deal with one of the things that we're highly trained and highly skilled in is marriage problems and divorce. We work with a lot of, legal lawyers and legal teams, Rabbanim, in the Jewish divorce to get a get. We work with a lot of Askanim who help, facilitate that if somebody is struggling with giving that. We also work with many different mental health, teams and resources to get people into therapy, because we feel like that's, when your mental health's aligned, everything starts to slowly get aligned. So we're very mental health focused. We're not, I am a mental health clinician, but our case managers are not all mental health clinicians, and we don't want them to be treating, but you want them to be noticing and picking up the red flags and realizing what's going on and then guiding people and connecting them to the right resources.
No, it's so important. You mentioned the Rabbanim. It reminds me, and I turn to Israel, is that part of your poster campaign and part of the campaign to educate the public is you got some very prominent rabbis and leaders in the Rockland community to endorse the polio campaign. I'm sure that had a good effect. How did that campaign come about?
When we launched this campaign and we began this initiative for Serenity Health, the important thing was to get the information from the different community leaders, Rabbanim, pastors, reverends, and really to help let them help us understand what's important for their community. How does our community think, and if there is any hesitancy, why there may be, and how to address that. The rabbinical leaders that we spoke to ultimately felt that it's important that they put their faces out there and put themselves in the driver's seat, not just on the back end of this campaign of helping direct us and the different organizations, but really to put themselves on the front end as well. So we did some audio and video interviews with different rabbanim, and then we also helped coordinate a kol korah that went out.
Which is a proclamation for those that don't know what kol korah is. If you live in Muncie, you see it all on the walls all the time, right?
Yeah, there's a very impactful aspect to that when you see your community leaders are telling their community, take action and do what needs to get done to protect yourselves, it comes a long way.
You said something a couple of times, and I didn't pick up on it, but I'll pick up on it now, is that it's not just targeted towards the Jewish community. This polio issue transcends religions and cultures, and you mentioned getting pastors and other religious leaders. So while the focus of the media has looked at the Orthodox community, but this polio issue everybody has to deal with it.
Sure. Polio is a disease that it impacts humans. It does not discriminate. It's, it hurts us all equally. And we wanted to make sure that all of the, everyone in the community, everyone in Rockland County is safe. And that's obviously the goal of the Rockland County Department of Health. And we're here to help them accomplish their goals. So we did it in Creole for the Haitian community, Spanish, Yiddish, and English, obviously. Really, engaging all of the different communities, whether that's community leaders, clergy, rabbinical leaders, and help get in front of their communities and let them know what's going on.
So what next? So you got 2,000 people that were vaccinated because of the campaign. So what happens next?
Well, we'd love to, double, triple, quadruple those numbers. We're still at it. We're not giving up. We're putting out short video clips, together with Montebello Media. And this interview is another attempt at, just really getting the word out that people should get immunized. It's so vitally important. And we're not stopping until every single person gets that vaccine. So.
Yeah, one of the things that I love working here is that I feel like I have a community talking about communities. Like we have a media team that can help us out. We have a backbone company, Serenity, that can help us out. We're constantly connecting with other resources like you that all help us out. And that's what I would feel like is the next step, is to let people know that they're not alone in this crisis. We are a community, as a city, as a state, as a country, and we can all walk through any sort of crisis together. We're going to connect the dots and not just leave someone stranded alone.
I'm sitting not in my studios, but I'm very happy to be in Montebello. This is a mansion that we're sitting in, and we're a studio part of the Serenity Health Systems, where they have acquired this wonderful mansion. It's over 100 years old. It's a lot of space, and they're an umbrella group. They have a lot of other healthcare-related facilities that are now part of Serenity, and Morty Becker is the Director of Communications for Serenity Health. Israel Romand is the Montebello Media. He's the Chief Marketing Officer. He's helping all the various components get media access, and Esty Nadler is the clinical manager for the Derech Shalom Center, which deals with some family issues and divorce and some other things that pertain to the family, which is so paramount and so important, especially as we're looking into the polio situation. So polio is on the horizon. I know winter is coming. I would assume the flu season is coming too. Is that something which also because some people think they got the COVID shot, they don't have to take the flu shot, right? That's I hear from people. So that's another educational camp. I'm trying to keep you employed.
Well, I appreciate it. If we're no medical experts, but if the Rockland County Department of Health or any Department of Health or organization needs help getting that message out there, we're here for them.
Now, is this new that the Rockland County Department of Health is working with the Orthodox and Hasidic community? Is it because did they do the same during COVID?
I believe it's first started with the measles, continued on with COVID, and now together with Serenity has really grown our partnership throughout the polio situation. And I think it's only getting better from here.
So it's going to be a continuous effort. It's not just
a continued collaboration.
Not just polio finishes and then that's it. There'll be
correct. And we're also working with the CEO of Good Samaritan Hospital and Nyack Montefiore. So we're really just working with everybody we can, stakeholders from all different communities to really get the word out. And like earlier I mentioned the 2,000 people vaccinated. Those are from people from communities all throughout Rockland, not just the people who get scapegoated.
Well, let me ask you this. Do we have any statistics as how many of the religious community was immunized?
So I think that gets into HIPAA and so on, and it's not even information that I know. So I can't speak to that.
But they have statistics. I remember hearing Yossi Gestetner, you probably
know.
Right,
so Yossi Gestetner provided, he's actually, Yossi's great with the data. I think they have the hashtag OJPAC data, and they're great at putting out, facts about, with the statistics. I think what they've shown is that by and large, the yeshivas and Beis Yaakovs, kids are immunized. And I think Israel could speak a drop more about this, but the backlog is really the kids who are under school age. Israel?
Sure. So, based on the data that we've been provided from various sources, it seems that most of the data that's been put out has been children who are under 2 years old, whereas a large part of in the Jewish community or any community that's starting or having their kids start school at the age of 5 or so, they may wait until that age until they have their children immunized for a host of reasons. So the data is somewhat skewed in terms of what's actually 100% accurate. But there's no reason to believe that our community doesn't take this as serious as any other community. I mean, ultimately, just the fact that the rabbinical leaders have been as involved as they have been, just I think to me emphasizes.
Can you drop names of some of the rabbinical leaders that were part of the campaign?
Rabbi Shabbos
sure.
was highly active, and Rabbi Radinsky, I believe.
Sure. Actually, what's very interesting is Rabbi Shabbos has a sister who had polio as a child. So he was actually he did an interview with us. So there's actually going to be some interviews that you'll see coming out in the next couple of weeks, which will give you all the names. but Rabbi Shabbos was actually someone special, and we did an interview both with him and with his sister. And they talked about their experience having to deal with polio, and quite frankly, it's a very serious disease. I mean, this is a very
serious disease. It's a paralyzing disease, and it was eradicated. It started coming back. We got to make sure it's eradicated again. That's why it's so important that people should make sure that they have polio immunization. It's important, especially for children. And most famous cases, FDR was paralyzed due to polio. And we won't say where he got it from, but he was a famous case, and lots of other people. And it's a serious thing that we have to really combat and fight and educate people to do that. Now, you said something interesting, is that the statistics probably begin when a child is two months old.
2 years.
2 years old.
Correct. But
lots of times, they won't get immunized till they're 5 years old. So that's where the discrepancy will say, hey, people are not immunized, but the fact is, though, is they're looking at from 2 years old as opposed to 5 years old.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why the data is skewed, and like Morty said earlier, due to COVID, there's been this big backlog. So parents haven't been getting their children immunized because they haven't been going to the doctors for the past couple of years. The data that we've received and from the medical experts that we've spoken to, they've also pointed out that there's a schedule of immunizations. So it would seem to imply that children under 2 can't get fully immunized, and that with that and the COVID situation, it just it's a lethal cholent, so to speak.
I'm glad you used the word cholent. It's a great metaphor. A lot of things get mixed in there, but it's important that it's good to eat it, but you have to make sure you're immunized before.
Absolutely.
Get the cholent vaccine.
And get the cholent. They should make one made with one out of cholent.
Yeah.
Maybe more people would take it if that would be the case. So Esty, in the Derech Shalom Center, so you're dealing with these issues, people coming with divorce and other problems and not paying attention to their medical history. Did you find that more people came in after COVID is over? Did you find that the problems get exacerbated? More family problems, more divorce because people were home more?
Most definitely. I mean, the Derech Shalom Center itself has only been around, I think we're coming to 1 year now. But being in the mental health world in general, we saw that once COVID hit, all the mental health problems, blew up, were magnified hugely. So many of people's day-to-day coping skills were taken away. Go outside, go to a store, meet up with a friend. All the resources that help keep people a little bit stabilized was taken away. So that just makes anything so much worse. We've definitely seen that. A marriage that isn't doing well, put them in a house, lock them in together for 2 years. People, yeah. So it's definitely we're now dealing with the fallout of it, of people who are post-divorce, let's say, and need help with co-parenting. And a lot that we see when it's separated home is that people kind of put the responsibility on the other spouse. And that's when you're going to have people not kind of keeping up to date with immunizations because they're like, well, he should take the child to the doctor. Well, she should take the child to the doctor. And nobody's taking that full responsibility. But we see that even in homes where, they are together and it's a different conflict of a child going through something and it just takes over the home. So COVID has definitely made things much more difficult for people.
What about for children? Because I believe the studies have come out that children that were in schools and had to wear a mask for 2 years,
Definitely.
it's retarded their development. Are you seeing that too in your practice?
Yeah, we're actually working with different government programs that are helping and children who are suffering from any sort of mental health condition to help them, give them a lot more services. So we're connected to that program, and we can help people get, extra tutoring or extra social skills or extra therapy in the home to help them kind of get back to base, because people are under average at this point, especially a lot of children. It's really sad.
Listen, it's been a pleasure being here. It's really, you're doing such amazing work. I love the facility. I'm waiting for the satellite dish on the roof where you're going to broadcast a satellite. I know you're doing podcasting, right?
Yes.
We got to do more radio and more satellite into the mix.
We're getting there step by step.
We're getting step by step. Okay.
Zev, if I can just take a moment to mention some of the great, organizations here that we service.
Sure.
One is, Derech Shalom. They spoke a lot about Serenity, but I also want to speak about Derech Shalom for a moment. Derech Shalom does phenomenal work for those who need it, especially, people who have some challenges in their marriages. Derech Shalom will help bring families back together, and sometimes when it's needed, they'll help facilitate divorces. We have Concord Mediation, which does actual mediation for families getting divorced, and they help them get divorced amicably. So no court battles and things like that.
How do they do that? I know some people they can. I'll send them right away.
I don't know their secret recipe. You'll have to ask them that question. But they're another phenomenal group. There's RYE, which is Rockland Youth Enrichment Services. They do phenomenal work together with the courts to help kids get into programs, drug rehabs, and so on. Then we have Sparks, which, as you know, you mentioned earlier, Esther Kenningsberg, which helps with women with postpartum issues and their families. We have Serenity Community Care, which is HCBS management to help families also deal with health issues. Am I missing anyone? We have the Essence Mental Health Network.
Oh, of course.
It'd be really offensive if we miss somebody. Let's get everybody.
We cannot miss Essence Mental Health. Essence Mental Health under the leadership of Yisrael Isaacs, who's an adjunct professor at Wurzweiler, and really just a phenomenal individual, someone who's great to get to know. He runs the Essence Mental Health Network out of the same Montebello mansion. So there are so many different groups here doing great things. Montebello Media.
Well, we're in our studio
right,
at the mansion.
We're in their studio here at the mansion, actually in the annex of the mansion.
You get honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention. So thank you so much for this opportunity. It was so great to have you here, and we hope you'll come back and visit again
it was
soon.
wonderful being here. I think it was great. You're doing impressive work, and it's important. And educating people about polio is one of the big challenges we have, and people not paying enough attention to it, and we must pay attention. So thank you for getting the word out there. And 2,000 people in a short period of time is a major accomplishment, a major achievement. So our hats off to you. And it was a thank you for having us here. So I want to thank you. First of all, I thank you, Morty Becker, the Director of Communications for Serenity Health. And good luck on this new facility, which is about 1 year old. It's a wonderful mansion. And thank you, Israel Roman, the CMO of Montebello Media, which is based at the mansion.
Sure.
And Esty Nadler is a clinical manager at Derech Shalom Center. Thank you, and keep that word out. Get that word out there, the message out there. So important that to take the vaccines, whether it's polio, COVID, whatever could be beneficial to you and your family's health. You should look at it very carefully, not just dismiss it out of hand. And if you haven't done it because you're busy, take the time out to educate yourself and learn why. If people want to get more information about Serenity Health, how can they do so?
So they can go to our website, which is serenityhs.net. And for the polio campaign, it would be polioinfo.com. Do you know the phone number?
I don't know the phone number offhand, but I can find it.
Okay, and I guess if they want to get in touch with you, Israel or USD, they use the same number, or you have?
We actually, Derech Shalom Center has a website and an Instagram account where you can go directly to us. But of course, Serenity can lead you to us as well.
And don't forget the podcast.
Yes, and my podcast, which is, actually hosted by the Montebello Media team, who's been helping me, and Derech Shalom, who's been giving me the platform to do it. Yes, it's called Beyond the Session.
And Montebello Media, you can email us at office@Montebello Media.
Listen, thank you so much. Continued success. And I look forward to broadcasting again from your wonderful studios here at Montebello Mansion. So thank you
you,
for
Thank you.
hosting us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.